Welcome to the Alaska Real Estate Podcast. I'm Chris Story, coming to you live from the Alaska USA Title Agency studios here in Homer, Alaska, at the headwaters of the Kajumak Bay and the nerve center of all things possible. Today, you're going to hear from two of our convention speakers. We've got coming in from Anchorage, Denny Wood, and from Juneau, Peggy Ann McConaughey. Find out what's happening. You remember, convention's just around the corner. Don't miss it. Also, I've had a chance recently to interview an Alaskan retiree. This guy's an uber successful business person, real estate developer, and entrepreneur. At the age of 66, after retiring, he says, you know what? I ought to get on a bike in Oregon and go all the way across the country to New York. You're in for a treat with this, the first installment of his transcontinental bike ride. He calls it the Heartland Ride. Alaska Real Estate Podcast made possible in part thanks to Alaska Housing Finance Corporation. Dan Fauski's left with AHFC, very capable successor in Brian Butcher and the incomparable team at Alaska Housing. We look forward to a continued effort to make housing affordable, safe, accessible, and efficient in the months and years ahead. Stay on top of the energy rebate program and more. akrebate.com and ahfc.us. Now here's Peggy Ann.
I am so excited about coming to Anchorage for the Alaska Association Realtor Convention to present a course on social networking. Now I know there are a lot of people out there who've taught a lot of different classes, but mine's going to kind of be, I think, different in that it's going to show you how to get great social networking skills easily without taking a lot of time out of your day. Most people don't know a lot about how to make it happen, how to make it work. They get worried that they get caught up in all these other personal things, but we're going to look at the down and dirty of this is what you need to do to become successful with social network marketing when you're in real estate and to make it work for you. Because after all, why spend any time at all on these social networking sites if you're not going to have extra income coming in because you're going to help more people buy or sell or rent or lease. So that's the whole idea behind it. We're going to show you what the top social networking sites are. We're going to talk about how to do the promotion. And most of all, we're going to concentrate on how to make it easy. Not a lot of time, not a lot of effort, but big results. So that's the big thing that I'm going to be doing up there, and I am excited to be able to provide that. So make sure you sign up for that class.
Well, hello, everybody. This is Denny Wood. And I'm with AlaskaRealEstateSchool.com, and I'm going to be teaching a class at Alaska Realtors Convention in the Captain's Cook Hotel this year. And the course I'm going to be teaching will be a designated CE course called Contract and Customer Client Services. What we're going to be talking about is new purchase and sale contracts. As most of you know, you realtors know anyway, that a few months back we got a new contract, totally rewritten. If you haven't really read this new contract, there's some things that you need to know about it because it affects your clients in a big way, and obviously we are hired to protect our clients. Some of the things about the new contract, they put it in a new order. It actually reflects the way we do business and the order of things come in the transaction, and they've added a few things to it. For instance, they've changed the word closing to recording because everybody says they go to closing and they sign the closing papers, they say, where's my key? And the contract, it says recording rather than closing now. So that's a kind of a good thing. Also, the contract has incorporated a number of documents that we used to have signed separately, like the notice of disclosure was a 3-page document that has been incorporated into the new contract. But a couple of things that people do not think about if the property is insurable or not. In the contract, it says you need to check if your property is insurable. Call your insurance agent and ask them to get a clue report on this thing to see if it's insurable before you do your home inspection. That's in the contract. And if you do it after the home inspection and find out it's not insurable, basically the buyer's in default. So if you want to really work for your client, make sure they know that. And a couple of things I'll be talking about in the class that a lot of realtors, particularly us old goats.
Get registered now and book your room at the Captain Cook. For all the details, visit AlaskaRealtors.com. AlaskaRealtors.com. Don't miss any of the action. It can happen in a class, at a party, or an event, or in the quiet reflection of a still morning overlooking the Cook Inlet. Come to convention and recharge. You will come away with that newfound energy for life in your real estate career. I guarantee it. Now, I'd like to introduce you to a very successful real estate entrepreneur, businessman, retiree, he's an adventurer, and an Alaskan. What follows is the first part in a series that will follow Mike Pate from coast to coast across the United States on his bicycle. Join me for what Mike calls his solo Heartland Ride. Mike, a little background about you before we get into your journey that took you from coast to coast. Where were you born, raised, reared? Where are you from? What's your tale?
Well, I was actually conceived in Anchorage, but I was born in Portland, Oregon. I only lived there for 3 weeks, and then returned to Anchorage, and then my family came to Homer when I was 5.
Well, so you moved here when you were just a toddler, and then what? What kept you here? Why are you still in Homer, Alaska after all these years?
I left after high school and went back to Oregon, went to college, and I was gone for 6 years. Finished graduate school there, and then went to the Slope to pay back my college loans, and also the mercenary in me wanted to take advantage of what was available. I met my wife in 1975 on the Slope, and we subsequently got married. And the following January of '76, we did not want to go back to the Slope. She's a Fairbanks girl, and fortunately said we didn't have to live in Fairbanks.
You won that round.
Yeah. And then we looked around the state, and my mother had a very small insurance agency, one person. And my father had been injured on the job and had to stay home, and she had to take care of him. And so I told her I would buy the agency from her, run it for 2 years, and then Kathy and I would be relocating to the lower 48. And that was in 1976.
Best laid plans.
Well, we've been very happy here. We've raised 3 children, and we may well get a secondary dwelling sometime somewhere else, but this will always be our primary residence.
We're here to talk about your trek on a bicycle from west to east coast, but explain to me just briefly, how do you go from now 2-person agency to a a large agency that then was purchased by a larger entity all those years later? What was the leap? What happened?
There's nothing magic about it. I mean, you simply get up and go to work at 7 o'clock in the morning. You stay there till 7 o'clock at night, and you do your best to communicate with the community and with individuals. And Homer is the only reason that we were successful. It's simply built itself. We did some business outside of the immediate area, but not very much, really. And then when Wells Fargo came along and offered to buy the agency and then combine it with several other agencies and asked me to run their statewide operation, it was a relatively easy transition to make.
Mm-hmm. You did that. You've then retired from the insurance business, and you wake up one day and you say, you know what would be kind of cool? If I got on my bicycle and I went from one shore to the other shore of the United States of America. Describe that. Describe what into planning the trip, the decision behind it, and then we'll get into the journey.
It didn't happen exactly that way. I actually, the first thing I decided I wanted to try to do was to climb. And so I flew down. I had never climbed anything. The stairs.
And the corporate ladder, if you will. But other than that.
I never got very high on the corporate ladder. Believe me, it's a slippery slope. So I flew to Washington and took a 7-day course on Mount Rainier, crevasse retrieval and those kinds of things. And then we summited Mount Rainier. And that was in September of 2010. I remember coming back to Camp Muir, which is at 10,000 feet, and lying there and listening to all the other participants, there were 8 of us in the party. Well, this is what we're going to do next, and this one, and saying to myself, I will never do this again.
That's it.
I was absolutely exhausted. Of course, I was the oldest member of the group, but that's no defense. I went back to Seattle and stayed with my daughter for a couple of days. We went to a bookstore. I bought a few books. And then the following summer, flew to Russia and climbed Mount Elbrus from the north side. Our guide was a Russian fellow, about 72 years old. And it was a very difficult climb for me.
You're indicating short in stature. You're holding your hand up, so he wasn't a very tall fellow.
No.
Very small man.
Yeah, but and then our American guide was Vern Tejas, and people who climb would know Vern. He's well-known worldwide.
So you say you're not going to climb again, but then you decide.
Well, I decided, I could try one more.
Right.
And so we did summit, although it was very difficult for me. We made the summit, and we came back to high camp, and then coming down, it was hard. But I flew from there then to Kilimanjaro in Tanzania and climbed Kilimanjaro 10 days later and summited. And then, I remember coming down Elbrus thinking, I had met one of the fellows that would have been with me on Rainier, did long bike rides, and I've ridden bikes for 15 years or so, thinking, if I wasn't roped to these guys, I could stop when I want to and rest. Mm-hmm. And if I'm on a bicycle by myself, I can stop whenever I want to and rest, right, and have a drink. And so maybe that would be a better thing for me to do.
That's my new thing.
So the following spring, I flew down to Eugene, Oregon, and I picked up a bike that I had ordered, made by CoMotion. Their factory is there in Eugene, and I rode from Eugene down to L.A. And again,
was it a couple 300 miles maybe?
It's 1,200 miles.
Oh, 1,200 miles.
1,200 miles.
All right.
And, you go through the Redwoods and Big Sur, and it's pretty challenging country, even though it's not that high, 1,000 feet or so, but you're constantly going up and down. There's nothing flat about the Oregon or California coast.
Stay tuned to Alaska Real Estate for the continued adventures of Mike's Heartland Ride. And thanks again to our sponsors, Alaska USA Title Agency. Crystal Patola and Michelle Stewart and the entire team are open to close your business. Online, AKUSATitle.com. Alaska USA Title Agency, celebrating 5 years and going strong. Sandy Aaronman's your executive producer. We hope to see you at the Captain Cook for the convention 2013. Don't make us come and find you. Don't make us come and find you. I'm Chris Story, wishing you health, wealth, and prosperity.